Welcome, delegates. I'm Zach Donaldson, your 2020 to 2021 Youth Governor, and I will be presiding over tonight's gubernatorial debate. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the candidates as follows. Nathaniel Smith from Rosie Schneider YMCA, Aastha Singh from Obama Academy, and Moiz Nasir from Hershey High School. I will ask the following candidates a mixed series of questions submitted by both voters and myself, to which they will have 45 seconds to respond to in rotating order, beginning with Delegate Nasir. Best of luck to all of the candidates, and without further ado, let's get into the first question. All right. We are witnessing perhaps the most tumultuous point of American history in decades. A global pandemic continues to loom over us. Bitterness over an election poisons our public dialogue, and we've seen consistent and abhorrent assaults on our institutions. In a time so divisive, how do you plan to govern fairly without sacrificing your own convictions and beliefs? We'll begin with Delegate Nasir. You will have 45 seconds, and I will tap the gavel when you have 10 seconds remaining. Begin when you are ready.
Yeah, Moiz Nasir, Hershey delegation. Thank you, Zach. Yeah, that's a great question. And without a doubt, it's so important to me. And one of the founding philosophies to my campaign is prioritizing others' opinions before my own. I think that's one of the founding qualities of any governor, of any politician, of any leader. And that's why I formed the administration platform on diversity. I want to choose delegates from all across the political spectrum, and I want to take quality time and spend quality time with them to debate important topics to make sure that we are properly representing everybody. And with that, I'll yield my time.
We will now move into a response by Delegate Singh. You may begin when ready, and you'll have the same 45-second time.
Aastha Singh, Obama delegation. Thank you, Zach. So I think that's a great question. And one of my favorite parts of YAG is how cohesive we are. We have people from both ends of the political spectrum coming together, becoming friends, networking with each other. And I want to make sure this continues well after I would be serving if I was elected. And so one way I will ensure this is by creating something called a delegation sister system, where I will pair up delegations so that they can work together, help each other, improve each other's resources, and just general knowledge banks, and make sure that the program as a whole comes together in times as divisive as these are.
Awesome.
Yield my time.
You're perfect. Don't worry about it. And then we will move into our final response by Delegate Smith. You may begin when ready.
Thank you, Zach. In history, there was the great Byzantine Empire and the great Emperor Justinian. He served through some of the most tumultuous times in his history. The Nika revolts and the Great Plague of Justinian decimated his population and left his empire in shambles. But through strength and resolve of his character, he led the Byzantine Empire to construct one of the greatest monuments in human history, the Hagia Sophia. And while not nearly on the same scale, that is my entire intention if elected your youth governor. I will be using the technology we have all become so acquainted with to reach out and spread the youth and government program both insularly and exularly. By using things like Discord, Zoom, and other technologies, we can increase communication between delegations and allow us to open that debate, which is such a fundamental principle.
All time for a response has elapsed. Thank you for your response. We will now move into the second question, and since we're rotating, it will move to Delegate Singh, then Delegate Smith, then Delegate Nasir. All right. One of my greatest regrets as a governor candidate was remaining hyper-focused on the destination and never appreciating the journey. Share your favorite conversation or moment with a delegate/delegation when you were campaigning. And we will begin with a 45-second response by Delegate Singh.
So campaigning was a lot of fun. I got to talk to a lot of great people, but one that stands out to me, one certain delegation, was the Somerset delegation. And I remember talking with their delegates and talking with their advisor, and they had so much great wisdom to share on my platform that really made me take a step back and reflect on how I was doing things. And what they said to me was focus more on repairing after COVID, because a lot of my ideas might be a little ambitious. So that really changed my whole view on my campaign. And so now I'm more focused on pushing the policies that'll help the program reunite once we get back.
All right. We will now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Smith. You may begin when ready.
My best moment was, similar to Aastha, at the Somerset delegation. I had proposed my idea of getting practical experts into the field in my administration cabinet, and I had mentioned the idea of wanting to get a hunter as the game commissioner. And the honest interest, and I immediately saw the eyes of the Somerset delegation perk up as such an honest interest and honest love of how we are going to represent of how we represent the state government came forth. It was an honest love for the program, and that reminds me why I'm doing this all. Well, that love, that interest, that pursuit of the truth is the whole reason I joined this program. I thank you. Now I end my time.
Awesome. And then we will now move into a final response by Delegate Nasir. You may begin when ready.
So as you know, Zach, I don't know if I need to say my name, Delegation Moiz Nasir Hershey.
You're perfect.
As you know, one of the founding principles to our program is youth advocacy. Youth advocacy is absolutely rooted in networking. And that is one of the sort of things that I've gotten to experience campaigning. One of the better things, or I said one of the more exciting journeys I've been through on this campaign was reaching out to different states across the country. I've gotten to talk with wonderful delegates such as Evelyn Howard, all the way from California. She's actually on my page. I've also gotten to talk with delegates from New Jersey who are running for governor, such as Kavin and Alexa. They're running for governor and lieutenant governor as well. These connections are wonderful to make, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to do that. And I think it's all rooting from the idea that we are in this virtual setting, and it's just one of the ways that we can take advantage of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Moiz. We'll now move into a question that will begin with Delegate Smith, then Nasir, then Singh. I think I got that right. Yeah. All right. In both YAG and real life, candidates consistently campaign on massive promises, but have trouble instituting them once in office, myself included. How can the voters trust you're different? And we will begin with the 45-second response by Delegate Smith.
The backing of my promise comes from practical and explained ideas of how we're going to get the resources we need to build the future that we want to see. And quite frankly, I think the number one way we can do this is by using the YMCA name to get out and get sponsors at a state level. The YMCA is one of the most respected institutions in the United States and has had a long history of servicing any community of any kind, of any creed. And I think that is the strength of the YMCA. I want to use our resources to go out and get sponsors at the state level. And this funding, which is almost always the choke point of any great plan, is what we're going to be able to use to build things like training conventions, to fund things like virtual connections between delegations, and to really set forth on a new foot.
All time for response has elapsed. We will now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Nasir. You may begin when ready.
You know, Zach, this is a really unique question because my most honest answer, and I'm going to be entirely transparent with this, is that no, not every single idea will come as serving as governor if elected. What I will do and what I will promise is that I have a list of priorities. Those priorities will be implemented in my strategy and what I want to do next year, starting with the top, starting with joint resolutions, things that create substantial and large improvements to the infrastructure of our program. Those will definitely be carried out. That is my priority. And on the bottom end, where there are minute details, I will work to make those happen. But something that I cannot let happen is if those little details don't go instituted, if they don't get implemented, I can't stop my whole schedule to make
response has elapsed. We will now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Singh. You may begin when ready.
All right, so when you take a look at my campaign Instagram, scroll down to the bottom, you're going to find a lot of big blue blocks with text on them. And these big blue blocks are my platform. And if you take a really close look at them, you'll see that each platform point has a what, a why, and a how. That means for every single thing I'm promising, I have a direction, I have a purpose, and I have steps to get there. So obviously, I'm not going to be able to get every single thing I promised, but I have ways to get at least most of what I promised done. And I want to make sure that everything I promised will get done. I'll use the roadmaps I built to get there. And if there's some promises that go unattended, I can pass them on to the next governor candidates who can hopefully carry those on if they wish.
Thank you. We'll now move into our next question. Seeing as you are running for governor, you will be responsible for representing all parts of the program. If capable, please state the judicial case this year and your stance. We will begin with Delegate Nasir with a 45-second response.
I'm so sorry. I need to contact the Chief Justice to get more information on this year's case to make a solid argument. I think it would be cheating if I didn't know much about the case and made a stance on it. So I'll get back with more research and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
right, thank you, Delegate Nasir. We will now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Singh.
All right, so I have to echo Moiz. I do not know the case this year. I was planning to sit down with Anna, our justice, and Sonia, our attorney, to go over the case before model, but that has not come yet. So unfortunately, I don't know yet.
All right, thank you, Delegate Singh, and then Delegate Smith.
What appears the record is broken. I unfortunately do not know the case either, and I will be speaking to our Justice Rosie Schneider, and I am more than willing to talk with any other judicial member to talk about and discuss where I stand on this case.
All right, thank you, delegates. So now we will move into our fifth question. So perhaps the most overlooked part of being governor is writing and implementing your legislative agenda. Today, are you willing to be upfront with the voters by sharing both your political tilt and what bills you will support if elected? We'll begin with a 45-second response by Delegate Singh.
Right. So absolutely I will. Absolutely I will. And that's because the governor, they don't just represent one side of the program. They represent the program as a collective. That collective has so many different ideas that they should know who the person leading it is going to be. But that being said, my personal political ideals will not influence how I act as a governor. Like, I won't veto bills that are at least from gold based on my political stance, because this program is before me. This program is more important than me. And I believe that the program's interests as a whole should be put above my own political views.
Thank you. We will now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Smith.
I'll be frank with you. I would describe myself as a libertarian. I generally lean conservative with economic, although my beliefs when it comes to the social issues are almost always leaning towards the side of defending the individual rights. This could be in the case of things like LGBTQ rights and gun ownership rights. But I refuse to let my political biases influence any of my vetoing. If the legitimate assembly of the people of Pennsylvania are to vote a bill into law, who am I to say no? But as I said, I promise I will not influence anybody, and I will not let that influence at all.
All right.
I yield my time.
Awesome. And then we will end it with Delegate Nasir.
Yeah, up front, the direct answer is, personally, I lean a little bit liberally. That's just where I reside on the political spectrum. And I'm definitely looking for some progressive ideology and progressive bills, for that matter, such as the criminal justice reform bills, environmental bills, gun reform bills, health policy and immigration. But then again, to echo some of the other candidates, it's not just what I think, but it's also what the administration and what the large opinion of our chambers are also agreeing with. And that's inevitably what's going to be placed higher up on my priority. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, delegates. And I started with Aastha that one, so we'll go to Nate. All right, I just have to remind myself sometimes. Sorry, guys. What policies have you enjoyed this year and would plan to build upon if elected? Beginning with a 45-second response by Delegate Smith.
So the classic, the financial note system, love it. Anything that can give us a more practical system and understanding of how we affect the real people of Pennsylvania is a great thing, in my opinion. I love the pre-model conventions for training. Specifically, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the David DeVivers mock model, or mock Senate, I would call it that I attended earlier today. It was a great convention, had a wonderful time getting some practice debate in. So those are two things I would definitely want to continue as governor. Financial notes, expand on that, and the mock model system. I've heard rumors that some people are considering a environmental impact, and I'd also love to continue that. Also, answering the last question, my personal platform is going to be protecting personal liberties and the rights of privacy. Didn't mention that, kind of obscure, but let's do it. Yeah, I yield my time.
Sorry, yeah, you're right on the money there with time. We'll now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Nasir.
All right, so one of the sort of large policies that we've instituted this year that we've kind of been forced to use is Zoom. I think this is wonderful. It's so efficient that I can connect with a delegation across the state in the click of a button. this is something that we don't have to throw away. This is something that I'm not planning to throw away. It's something that I want to integrate and heavily integrate into my agenda if elected. For example, I plan to host legislative office hours and continue the sort of mock model thing, as well as create judicial circuits so that judicial delegates can stay informed throughout the year through utilizing technology. Thank you.
All right. And then finally, we will have a response by Delegate Singh. You may begin when ready.
So to echo the other candidates, first off, I love the fiscal note system. Having finances integrated into debate when they're such a huge part of this decision-making process is crucial, and I'm glad we have something to do that. And also virtual meetings, like Moiz said. This virtual meeting platform can be used to do so much. Like in my platform, I have a sort of first year model thing, sort of like what David did, and statewide bill workshops and going over briefs with attorneys and justices both, things like that, that we can use Zoom to do that we couldn't before because we didn't know how, but now we've become so used to it that it's going to be like second nature for us. And also the vote ranking system that we had at EC was fantastic. I hate runoffs myself. And so having a way to avoid that is great.
Awesome. Why are you the candidate to assist small delegations? And I will begin with Delegate Nasir on this one.
Yeah, this is a wonderful question. So I'm from Hershey, so you might be like, why are you the candidate for small delegations? Well, I think it's all about initiative, and I have implemented certain policies to meet this critical issue within our program. Specifically, sort of recalling what I said previously here, I want to create Zoom meetings. And the reason I want to do this is because a huge issue we see, especially in the legislative branch, is that delegates from small delegations don't have the opportunity to partake in debate as often as large delegations do because they simply don't have the numbers. So by creating Zooms and by hosting these large events prior to model, we're expanding resources and giving an equal opportunity to every delegate. Thank you.
Great. We'll now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Singh.
So my own delegation has experienced the effects of COVID, and now we have 11 people, including me. So I sort of understand what it's like to be from a small delegation. And even though I haven't been from a small delegation for too long, I talk to people that have from places like Butler or Garnet Valley. And with their input, I'm going to create an admin position, the delegation relations officer, that is going to address concerns from all delegations, but especially small delegations, communicating with them throughout the year, making sure they're not disadvantaged in terms of resources or advising, making sure that they have what they need to be on par with the delegations that already have everything, and making sure that they're just prepared for model, because I know the struggle, I know their struggle, and I won't want them to struggle anymore.
And then we will now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Smith. You may begin when ready.
So I have had a great time in the past discussing the nature of small delegations with the unfortunate late Sam. Sorry. But yeah, I think I am in a position to help small delegations because of my clear stances on how I want to help small delegations grow. Through using the YMCA's resource, we can gather donations of money, which we can then use to fund my targeted outreach program, where as a liaison of the YMCA, we will reach out to schools as school administrators with schools that have programs like mock trials, mock debate, and as I've been recommended by other people, mock UN, and we can use the money we collect through it.
Time before your response has elapsed. We will now move into the next question. So this one's you're gonna have a minute 30. So let me switch up the timer because it's a little bit beefier. But name a quantifiable policy goal you have for each branch, and I believe I'm starting with Delegate Singh on this one.
All right, so one for each branch, I'd like the legislative branch to be able to split back up into blue and gold again. I understand why they combined chambers this year, but it's going to be really hard for those younger delegates. So I want to make sure that we have enough people to split back into those blue and gold. For lobbyists, we have 3 lobbyists this year. Next year, I'd like to be at least 6. I know that's less than what we've had in past years, but I want to see the lobbyist branch grow. I really do. I'm liking where admin is at right now, the amount of people there. So With the addition of my 3 positions, I don't really want to change it that much. With judicial, I've seen a list of all of the attorneys, and I'd like that to grow by at least 20%, if not more. I know judicial has been hit hard. My delegation's judicial program has been cut by half. So seeing that 20% rise will really be great. And then the press branch. We've obviously seen that there's only 1 editor-in-chief candidate this year. Next year, I want to see it up to at least 2 or 3, making sure these branches are on their way back to what they used to be. That's my number 1 goal.
We'll now move into a 1-30 response by Delegate Smith. You may begin when ready.
For the legislative branch, I would love to see the chambers be split back into blue and gold, as others have mentioned. I would love to see for judicial. I would love to see I would love to see more candidates running for justice. Of course, this requires more experienced candidates, so this may be something that we see down the line. But I know at my personal electors convention, there were 2 votes and 2 candidates. I would love to see that number be increased to at least 3. For the press branch, I would like to create at least 1 year-long project. This could be maybe some kind of large piece of writing that is revised over the span of a year. Maybe this could be 1 large-scale writing workshop, but something hard and concrete, one thing for the press to be doing during that entire duration from pre-leg or EC to model convention. For the lobbyists, I know Rosie Schneider personally doesn't have any lobbyists. I would love to, both in my delegation and out, encourage at least 1 lobbyist, if possible, from as many delegations as possible. I'd prefer, if possible, any delegation more than 25 or so people could get a lobbyist. That would be amazing. For admin, I would like to see the direct inclusion of a practical experience category. It wouldn't be required, but I would love to see practical experts in their field be included in my cabinet. I yield my time.
Awesome. And then we will finish it off with Delegate Nasir.
All right, so I'll start out with the legislative branch, and a foundation to our legislative branch, as we all know here, is advocacy. I want to expand that scope of advocacy finally, and for the first time in PAYAG's youth and government history, to an outside of youth and government. I want to expand it to the point where our very own representatives from our General Assembly may see our work and actually sign our bills and our ideas into law. It's a pretty complicated process, so for time's sake, I'm going to skip over that for now, but that's my big ambitious idea for the legislative branch. Moving on to judicial, I want to focus largely on collaboration, and I want to do this by filling the downtime that's usually there in the judicial branch. First, I want to create deliberation rooms where older members can mentor younger members, as well as alumni programs where our best delegates from the past can also mentor younger delegates in the judicial program. And lastly, for the press, I want to sort of create an inter-branch communication. As we've seen this year, the press is so necessary and so vital to keeping our program in good hands, keeping everything tied together. And that's exactly what I want to carry on doing next year. That's why I want to create the campaign manager position, so that for the first time, a delegate from the press bands can actually advertise for a respective PO candidate, as well as create a YAG podcast to keep the entire program updated, engaged in a fun way. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. We will now move into Delegate Smith for the next question. So, seeing as you are all incredibly committed and high-performing students involved in several other activities, how can voters trust you will be able to fully commit to this position? And we'll begin with Delegate Smith for a 45-second response.
So, to be frank, one of the major things that I do outside of this is I play football for the Seneca Valley varsity team. The season will be over by the time we get there, and I don't play any spring sports. So that's nice and convenient. Outside of that, my senior year is docked with a lot of classes that I have taken, challenging classes, but classes that I have taken for personal enjoyment, classes, AP classes taught by coaches, AP classes taught by personal family friends, as my mother is a teacher at the school. So I will not be expressly busy, and I am a personal fan of caffeine. So there is no limit to the amount of time I can stay up late at night answering questions, talking to delegates, writing plans, and getting work done. I have always been a late night grinder, and I have no intention of changing. I yield my time.
All right. We will now move into a response by Delegate Nasir. You may begin when ready.
All right, Nathan, that was a pretty funny response. But yeah, next year, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be busy. All right. But here's the philosophy that I have that I like to carry out. What is work is work. But what is passion, you do with passion, and you don't consider work. That is what I consider this position. It's all about the energy that you bring and the commitment that you have. But the fact is, I'm passionate about this. I'm not going to use it as a work like, oh, I have to do this. I need to set aside time. No, I want to do it out of fun and out of love for youth advocacy. It's something that has transformed me as a person, and it's something that I think is going to help me out in life. This program, it equips you with life skills, and that's exactly what I want to help every single delegate in this program do. And that's the philosophy I'm carrying forward to do it. Thank you.
All right. And then we'll now move into Delegate Singh for the final response.
All right, so YAG would be a burden if it wasn't fun. And YAG is fun. I'm sure everyone in YAG can attest to that. It is fun. We love it here. That's why we're in this program. It's invigorating. It's inspiring. I love it so much. I put away my assignments for it. And I have constantly showed up for YAG since day one, since I was a chair, since I was elected as a whip, and now I'm elected as a chair again. The advisors have seen my commitment to the program. That's why I've been selected as a Conference on National Affairs delegate twice. I'm always here for YAG. I have consistently shown up because this is my passion. This is what I love. And it's never going to be hard for me to do this because it's just so fun. So I feel like making sure, like what Moiz said, this isn't work. This is our passion. This is what we love to do. And making sure that this is our, thank you.
Okay, I think we're back to Moiz now, right? Don't have my orders matched up. All right, cool. Now, a common topic candidates love to spar on is who is the most experienced candidate? A, do you believe you are the most experienced candidate? And B, do you believe experience is the most important or relevant factor for becoming governor? We'll begin with Delegate Nasir for a 45-second response.
So to answer your question, I'm actually going to answer the second question first. Do I believe it's the most important quality? Well, I don't want to debate whether it is or not. I think that's up to the constituents of this program. But I will say I believe I am the most experienced candidate. In a normal year, experience is important. Next year, experience is quintessential. And I say that because we don't know what the program year is going to look like. It's very likely that we will start in person or in virtual and then transition to in person in a spontaneous fashion. And being that I've worked as a presiding officer with the team of presiding officer from the summer and throughout the year doing this exact thing, I believe I can step into the position of governor with as little of a learning curve as possible to ensure the best experience for every delegate. Thank you.
We'll now move into a 45-second response by Delegate Singh. You may begin when ready.
All right, so we all know that next year model is most likely going to be in person. And as the one here with the most in-person leadership experience at model, yes, I do believe I am the most qualified. I have held some sort of leadership position every single year I have been in this program. I have never not been a leader. Like this year, I'm delegation leader and chair. Last year, I was elected as whip. The year before that, I was a committee chair. So I'm always doing some sort of leading. And that leading has obviously shifted from COVID. I've learned, and I can learn to shift back again. But that being said, experience is not the most important quality. What's most important is a change that a candidate plans to make. You can see that directly in their platform. So while yes, making sure you know what you're doing is important, but knowing what you're going to do is infinitely more.
Sorry, Delegate, all time for your response has elapsed. We will now move into the final response by Delegate Smith for 45 seconds. You may begin when ready.
I will make no qualms to you. I am not the most experienced candidate here. I've only served as a Golds Committee chair and as a Blue senator. But governorship is not about the experience we've earned and the experience my fellow candidates have earned by being in a debate chamber. Gubernatorial strength comes from an understanding of people, an understanding of how to lead. My experience outside of youth and government as a team captain of the football team and as what is known as a champion of excellence, yes, that is the actual title at my job, has given me innumerable experience in teaching and leading. These positions, both of them, are positions of teaching newer people how to do their jobs best.
I'm sorry, Delegate.
Captain.
Time for your response has elapsed. All right, I think 2 more questions. So we're almost at the home stretch, and we will begin this one with Delegate Singh. Due to the nature of the virtual environment, youth and government saw a large hit in participants this year, both statewide and nationally. What is your plan to retain and recruit delegates? I will begin with Delegate Singh.
First off, I understand the effects of COVID. My own delegation dropped 60 to 11. I understand how hard this is hitting us, and I understand how the after effects will be. And that's why I've created a few platform points to make sure that the effects are muted. And so one of these is having a branch introduction seminar at EC. And I know EC is a lot of kids' first introduction to youth and government, and it's very ledge focused. I'm not going to lie, it's very ledge focused, and ledge is very confrontational, and that's not for a lot of people, and that sort of turns them away from YAG. So I understand that. So by exposing them to the different parts of YAG, they can see that there's something for everyone, and hopefully see that they have a place in the program, and they'll be prompted to take that place, and we can increase membership.
I'm sorry. Oh, well, you finished it at the perfect time. And we'll now move into Delegate Smith for a 45-second response.
My plan for retaining and gaining new delegates comes in two forms: training and outreach. So I have stated in the past, and I would like to make it a personal goal of mine, to either make pre-ledge, expand the size of pre-ledge to include training at the committee level, at the chamber level, at the writing the brief level, at the presenting it level, and at the and for press writing it, lobbyists and admin, they can be participating in both the chambers and committees as necessary, or as they would like to be experienced. So that's my plan to retain existing delegates. To gather new delegates, my targeted outreach program, where we will use the YMCA's resources gathered through sponsors, or if need be, what we have right now, to reach out to school administrators with programs like mock UN, mock trials, mock debate stuff, and get those together.
Your elapsed. We will now move into the final response by Delegate Nasir for 45 seconds. You may begin when ready.
All right, yeah, Zach, you're absolutely right. One of the huge problems we're faced with this year and that we're going to have to address next year inevitably is the cutback on sort of volunteering and participation that we've had. And I have two specific plans to get that back. Number one, I want to establish and work with other YMCAs to establish more delegations, specifically in underrepresented parts of Pennsylvania. You look at areas like Pittsburgh, where recruitment in the past has been a little bit lower. That's a perfect area where we can get extra youth advocacy within our program and across the state. And additionally, I want to establish virtual YMCAs. We've seen the likes of technology. The fact that we're even doing this right now is extraordinary. It's something that I want to carry on doing next year, so that for delegates who maybe don't have a local YMCA, they can get the resources they need to participate in our wonderful program. Thank you.
This last question is so fun. I bet you'll be so excited for it. But to finish us off, we'll begin with Delegate Smith. Using 3 words, why do you want to be governor? And you can take your time because I'm just being a jerk with this one.
Duty, vision, and potential.
Awesome. Now we'll move into Delegate Nasir.
Vision. I'm going to steal one there from you, Nathan. You took that one right out of my mouth. Vision, grateful, and commitment.
Then we finish it off with Delegate Singh.
Improvement, selflessness, inspiration.
Awesome. And that is a wrap. Thank you so much to all the candidates for attending and participating. Thanks to those of you who are watching. One of these beautiful people will be filling my seat next year, and that will be announced at closing ceremonies. This is me signing off.